Hi, everyone. Welcome to today's webinar. My name is Min. I'm one of the product managers here, and with me, I have Yang, another product manager here at Checkbox. Today's webinar is called Transforming Your Legal Intake with AI. We're really excited to show you how matters evolve and are captured inside our ecosystem, and how we're excited about the future of AI and its ability to enrich the intake process. So in today's webinar, we'll go through the intake process, how it's today, and how we see the opportunities evolving with AI. We'll then see how matters are managed inside matter management, as well as how reporting is generated. And then we'll look at some of the technical setup, as well as open up some time for Q&A. So with that said, let's get started. So to begin, I want to show you how matter management typically captures matters today. And typically, teams will either have a no matter management system at all, so none of that information is being captured in a structured way, or we'll have things like Excel spreadsheets. One of the powerful things about matter management is that we can get visibility into the work that our attorneys are doing within the team. And so to show you an example of how this is done in email, I've sent Jennifer, our in-house software counsel, an email to say, hey, look, we're about to launch a new feature. We probably need to update our user agreement. I've sent along those documents with a bit of background. And Jennifer's replied to my email, as she normally does, with some amended documents with comments. And all that she's done is included what you can see here is an intake email address. It's as easy as that. All the attorneys need to do is provide that email address, and that captures the entire context behind this matter. And if we see what that matter looks like on platform, you can see here that the conversation between myself and Jennifer is captured. All of the documents captured as well. And the fields related to that matter are updated by myself. And so in this case, things like request due date and status and priority is all noted here and updated over the course of a matter. I can also do that process in Slack. So you can see here an example for a new payments product, and I can choose which messages I'd like to create a matter for. And so this gives us an advantage when it comes to visibility of matters. And we'll see how that plays out later in this webinar. But one thing we're really excited about is the opportunity for AI to enrich that entire intake process. And so with that said, I'll hand it over to Yang to show us that future.
Thanks, Min. So we really believe that in the future, AI will play a huge role in taking away mundane and repetitive work from legal teams. And one big space where that will happen is in the intake process. So with the Checkbox matter management platform, a lot of our AI intake happens through what we call the AI front door or our AI assistant. Our AI front door has integrations into the platforms that your team already uses, so things like Slack, email, as well as Teams. So what I'm going to show you first is actually just the normal AI assistant chat interface or the front door interface. So I'll just share my screen now. And what you're seeing here is really the back end of the AI assistant. If I click into share and open up a new tab, you will now see the front end of the AI assistant. So for a lot of our customers, where they start off is with this type of experience, because this experience is directly available out of the box. You don't need to integrate with any existing systems within your org, which means less IT overhead, IT approvals, all that sort of stuff. So a lot of our customers start here. And with this, you can just share this link with your business users embedded on your intranet, that sort of stuff. And with this assistant, I've set it up to answer questions and triage things into our matter management system. So to start with something a bit more broad, so sometimes you'll see business users come in, they're a bit curious, and they might just say something like, hi. So there's no real legal question here. It's sort of just they're curious about what the AI assistant can do. And in this case, the AI assistant will just respond with a very sort of polite hello and try to refocus the conversation towards legal and compliance. So how the AI assistant responds is completely configurable. In this case, I've tried to create a more generic legal intake AI assistant. Now, with a normal assistant, I think most of us have seen that by now with ChatGPT and all the tools out there. Where the checkbox AI assistant differs is it can actually intake different legal questions and create specific matters out of them. So maybe we'll run through a classic sales agreement contract review type use case. So maybe I'm a business user. I might say, I just received a sales contract from a vendor. I need it reviewed. And I'll press enter and send this to the AI assistant. Now the AI assistant is having a think to see how it should respond. So the AI assistant has responded with a number of follow-up questions, and these questions are basically the data points that usually need to be covered before a legal matter can be created. So in this case, the user can then respond, the vendor name might be, let's say, Tesla, the contract value is 1 million, the deadline, let's say, is 30th of March 2025, and maybe the business user doesn't know the answer to some of these. So I might just say, not sure on the rest. In this case, I'll just press enter, and the AI assistant should be able to take that information and turn it into a matter on the relevant board. So if I click in through this link, you can see the AI assistant has said, thank you for the details. It's sort of ingested the information from the user's message and created a link here for the user to see where their matter is. And you can see here, it's sort of extracted the relevant piece of information that the user had and sort of inserted it into the actual matter itself. Cool. So the extent to which the AI assistant follows up with different questions can be configured. In this case, I've set it so that the AI assistant will only ask follow-up questions once. You can make it more persistent in how it asks questions to try to get more information out of the business user. But in this case, I feel like a single follow-up question is enough. And if the lawyer requires more information, they can follow up with the business user directly. So that's the chat interface, so the native AI assistant interface for the checkbox AI assistant. But a lot of teams will graduate beyond this. And from here, they usually graduate into the channel that they're already using. So whether that is Slack, email, or Teams. So I'll run through each of those quickly, and I'll just copy the same question here, just so we're using the same example. So I might jump into Slack, and we have a app here, which is the AI assistant that I've set up. And what I can do is message this AI assistant directly. So imagine I'm a business user. I've come into Slack where I already spend a lot of my time. I find the relevant legal intake bot, and then I can just send it a message. And as with before, we will need to wait a little bit for the AI assistant to process this message and come up with a response. So we can see now that the AI assistant has come up with a response. So if I click into the thread, you'll see that it's basically asked the same follow-up questions as it has before, which makes sense because it asked the same question. So I'm just going to reply the same way. So vendor is Tesla, the contract value is million, the deadline is 30 March 2025, and I'm going to say the same thing as before, where I don't have information on key terms yet, and this time maybe I will put in a contact information. So I'll just say contact me at yang.pan@checkbox.ai. So then I will press send, and as with before, we will just wait a little bit for the AI assistant to process that to see whether it wants to ask further follow-up questions or whether that is enough information for it to triage. So it seems like it's been enough. So it says, thank you. They'll follow up with me if they have any further questions, but it's been forwarded to the legal team, and here is the specific ticket that's been created. And you can see here, beyond the fields that have been filled out, the entire conversation history with the AI assistant also flows through into the matter as well. And this is super handy because then when the lawyer actually picks up this matter, They can sort of see the conversation and see if there's anything that may not have been filled into the fields on the right-hand side here. So that's Slack. The other two channels are quite similar, so I'll run through those fairly quickly. So if I come into email, all of our AI assistants come with an email address. You can set this up so there is email forwarding. So it might be legal@acme.com instead of the out of the box checkbox email for the AI assistant, which is a bit longer. So if you're actually setting this up, you will have generally like legal@yourcompany.com. And here I can just ask the same question again, right? I'm just going to paste my same question and I'm just going to press send. And as with before, we'll have to wait a few seconds for the AI assistant to process that question and then respond. And as we've seen before, it will probably respond with follow-up questions. And then once I respond with that, it will then again respond with the newly created matter.
One thing that Yang, I think you're showing is that it's the same AI assistant being distributed across multiple channels, which creates consistency, particularly for teams who are using different types of channels. Perhaps maybe email is your initial point of entry for the request, and maybe Slack is the follow-up platform for where the conversation around the matter evolves. Um, whether either of those platforms are used as an intake, the point is you can distribute it in multiple ways using the same bot.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly right. And it's sort of just one point of configuration, right? You don't need to configure each of those individual intake channels individually. When you implement a change to the AI assistant, that behavior will be available across all of the different intake channels that you have set up. Cool. So we've got that reply email from the AI assistant. So I'm going to respond the same way again. Just to do this quickly this time. Deadline 30 March. Key terms, not sure. And then just I'm going to send, and we will expect the AI assistant to then respond with a link to the newly created matter. And again, that matter will contain the email thread so that the lawyer picking up this matter will have full context as to the journey that the business user has been through with the AI assistant, just to make sure that there is no context that has been. You can see here, thank you. Basically the same as what we saw in the other channels, and we have a link again to the newly created matter with the full email thread here as well. So finally with Teams, just running through this quickly, you can embed the AI assistant as a app. So if I click here, we've got the AI assistant. I'm not going to run through the same example again because I think we've seen that enough times. So I'm just going to say hello just to show you that it's working. And your experience will basically be the same as with the other channels, very similar to the chat experience I showed you at the very beginning. But yeah, that's basically it for the different intake channels. But what comes next is we've captured this information, we've now got a matter, and it really becomes up to the legal team, up to your processes to decide what the next step is. But we have all this data in matter management now, in the checkbox matter management platform, which unlocks a lot of process improvement as well as reporting. So I'm going to hand over to Min to cover that in a bit more detail.
Awesome. Thanks, Yang. And if you have any questions, please feel free to post it into the chat below, or wherever the chat may be found, and someone from our team will be able to answer those questions for you. And I'll go ahead and share my screen. So as we see intake becoming easier and we're able to capture a lot of this information, the question now becomes, what do we do with this information? And there's two things that we think this can be used for. One is really at an operational level, how each of the teams on a daily basis or on a weekly basis leverages the information to, say, prioritize their work or work out kind of trends in the types of requests they're receiving. And then for some of us here within this room, the visibility of the reporting side. And we'll see some of that in action in a moment here. What you're seeing on the screen here is what we call a board. It's another way to conceptualize a team's work. In this case, we have our entire legal team's sort of book of business, if you want to call it, of different matters that are in progress. Each one of these rows are clickable and will link to what we saw earlier, which are the individual matters with their conversations, their files, and their fields. Those fields can then be edited here on this particular view, and it can be sliced and diced to do things like weekly or daily reporting if you're, say, doing a more of a stand-up agile type culture. But to take it a level further, what you can also do is break down this particular work view. So for instance, maybe we want to hone in on all the contract work that our team is doing, whether that be software work, software contracts, or perhaps in Yang's case, as he mentioned earlier, sales contracts. If we want to drill down, we can actually filter by that. Perhaps we want to see high priority matters. And so we want to see what is really urgent. Maybe on a Monday morning, we have a stand up and say, let's actually focus our attention on unblocking and focusing our team's attention on these particular matters. Or perhaps from a team management perspective, we want to see for individual attorneys what their workload looks like and whether we can unblock them or support them or perhaps move things around so that they can be effective as an attorney. One thing that we're really excited about is cycle times and sub-cycle times. Behind the hood, what we do is we track the progress of these different matters, no matter what type of work type they are. And so as an example, we have here just a generic status field that's looking at the matter progression, but we can do things like measure the status of a contract as it moves through different stages and create a separate field for that. So every field that you're seeing on the screen is completely configurable. In fact, the ones that you're seeing here are largely editable, and we've made some decisions here around what value should go into there. For example, we have a view here called total time with legal, and we've created a custom status that allows us to see where the matter is sitting in relation to personnel. So for example, it might be sitting with legal, it might be sitting with the business, it might be sitting with the external party. All of these options that you're seeing here in the dropdown are, again, completely configurable. And behind the hood, under the hood, sorry, you'll see the reporting as I transition there in a moment to give us a minute, hour, day view of exactly how long each of these matters are sitting at a matter level, but also at an aggregate level. We can also do things like report on first response time. How long is it taking us as a team to actually get back to the business once they submit a request? You can see here a breakdown of that information is seen in this first response time and gives us that information to have a conversation with the business. Maybe we are a little bit slow and we can actually see that data, or perhaps it's unsubstantiated and we have the data to back that up. Speaking of data, let's transition now to the reporting side now that we've seen how matters are managed. And so in this particular view, we're seeing the reporting capabilities within the matter management product that gives us a 360 view of what's happening within the team. For example, along the top row, we'll see that we have a count of the total number of matters, total number that are open and completed. And we can see that just at a bird's eye view. But we can take that a little further and see time-based metrics, things like average cycle time across the entire team, the total time that our team's actually spending on matters, how many matters have taken longer than 3 days to complete, average time with the business, average time with legal, and then average first response time. So some really powerful reporting is being unlocked by virtue of those fields that we saw earlier in the intake portion, as well as the management portion being married together to power these charts. On that note, everything that you're seeing here is completely configurable. And so on the note of configurability, we have a few custom charts that we've also created. That's not to say these aren't customizable, but these ones are a little bit more visual. So I thought, I think everyone here would really enjoy them. One is team allocation. So by headcount, we can see who's working on the most number of matters and who perhaps is maybe freer to help support. We can see total volume of work across different months broken down by matter type. And we can even filter those out if we want a bit more of a focused conversation there. We can break down matters by practice area and see perhaps where we need to hire additional headcount so that our teams can be more effective. And we can also see matters by, say, business unit to potentially identify areas of maybe training or education that we can deploy to reduce the number of matters and requests. And we can do other things like see high priority matters and some detailed reports. So to summarize, as you've seen today, we've seen an intake experience that is first robust in sort of the manual method, Then Yang's also shown the AI configurable method, which really reduces the friction of interacting with legal. Then we have the management side on the boards, and finally the reporting side that you're seeing on the screen now. And maybe one question you're having today is, how do I configure all of this, particularly the AI portions that you saw earlier? It just feels like things are moving so fast, and maybe it's a bit of a challenge in setting AI up in the way that we do, say, intake. I want to assure you that that's not the case. It's quite easy. So with that said, I might hand it over to Yang to show us just how easy it is for us to, say, enable and enrich our intake process with AI.
Thanks, man. And before I dive into that, if you have any questions, feel free to put them in the chat, and I'm sure someone from our team will be able to get back to you fairly quickly. So the AI assistant, when we designed it, ease of setup was a huge consideration for us. So as I show you the process now, hopefully that will come through and put your mind at ease as to how hard or how quickly this AI assistant can be set up. So if I share my window again, you'll see we're back in the back end of the AI assistant. So if you go into Checkbox, you create an AI assistant, you'll sort of be taken to this page. You can name your AI assistant whatever you want. You can upload different policy documents, that sort of stuff, to give your AI assistant knowledge about your business and the areas that it should give answers on. And what we were demoing earlier is really these different actions. So actions are what enable the Checkbox AI assistant to actually create matters from user questions and user requests. So a user might come in with a question on contract law, or they need contract review, or just have a contract related question. You'll see here that I actually have a create a contract review matter action, and I've linked this action with the contracts team board as well as the contract review matter layout. And you'll see that it's very straightforward what I've done here. Whether you sort of put this contract review matter in a generic legal team board, if you only have one legal team, or if you have multiple teams that each handle a sub area, it's all really up to you how you configure that here. So in the example that I've got here, I've got general legal matter, which is just where it doesn't fall into any of the other categories. I've got contract review matter as well as employment issue matter. And depending on how you've configured your boards and how you've configured your matter layouts, you can decide how many you want here. And again, depending on whether you have different email inboxes or different intake channels for different types of legal matters, you can also decide how you want to set up your AI assistant. So in my example before, you'll see that when I asked a contract related question, it only triggered this action, which then meant that all the matters that were previously created were all within the contracts team, as well as having a matter layout of contract review. And this is very important more from a reporting perspective, because all of that data will then become available in the reporting that Min was showing you earlier. The other thing I want to show you about setting up the AI assistant is the customization. So in most cases, I'd say 90% of cases, this doesn't really have to be configured too much, but it's really when you want a specific, let's say, tone of voice or style for the AI assistant. Maybe you want it to be a bit more playful, or I know some teams have sort of Christmas tones where during Christmas they want the legal team AI assistant to speak a bit like Santa Claus or something like that. You do have that flexibility here, but in most cases, I would say that you don't need to configure this beyond some minor tweaks. The next piece is really those integrations. So we have email forwarding, which is what I demoed in Outlook. Basically, every AI assistant you create will come with a unique email address. And you can set up email forwarding such that when your legal@acme.com email receives an email, it gets automatically forwarded to the AI assistant. You can also set up responses from that email as well. So it's all a seamless experience for your business users when they email that legal inbox. We also have a Slack app, which I demoed earlier as well. And this Slack app is just something that your business users can email directly from within Slack as well. But that's basically it for setting up the AI assistant side of things. It's super, super simple. Usually people pick it up pretty quickly. There will be some tweaks required. It is a bit of iteration where you sort of do your first version of it. You might test it yourself to see if it's behaving the way you want. If it isn't, you can easily go in and make those tweaks yourself. Because as I've just shown you, there's only a few different settings here for you to play around with anyways. But yeah, that's basically it for the setup. The setup on the Matter layout side is similarly quite straightforward and very easy. Anyone non-technical can quite easily do that as well. It's really more of a question of how do you want to structure your processes rather than wrestling with the software itself in most cases. But with that, I'm going to hand back over to Min to recap what we've just covered.
Awesome. Thanks, Yang. And one other thing to mention for Slack as well is, of course, we have the interaction with the app that you saw Yang directly interact with, but you have the opportunity to also embed the AI system within channels as well. So as an example, if you have a hashtag legal channel, which is maybe a public channel that requests are flowing into, you can go ahead and add your app into that. Or perhaps you've got a private channel, something a bit more confidential or a bit more segmented from the rest of the business, maybe legal-employment as an example, collaboration between those two teams. You can go ahead and install that, and the exact same experience will occur in that channel as well. So to recap, in today's webinar, we saw the 3 stages of a matter lifecycle. We saw a matter in how it gets initiated, then how it gets managed, and finally how we can report on the data collected from matters. One area that, as you saw, we're particularly excited about is the opportunities around intake and how AI is enriching that process so that we reduce the amount of friction around, say, the submission from the business users who can provide information up front, and the translation of those requests into data via AI with the extraction that you saw the AI system apply to the matter fields. Thanks so much for your time. If you have any questions, please post them below. And with that said, we'll catch you at the next one. All right.